Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys the update to my Lunalight deck. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into this. So starting off, we are playing, of course, our 2 copies of Lunalight White Rabbit. Now, White Rabbit is fantastic for just swarming the field, not only to set up easy link summons, but also to get more bodies on the field for you to use as fusion material for your fusion plays. Of course, we're playing Lunalights. And in conjunction with that, you have, of course, 3 copies of Lunalight Black Sheep and 3 copies of Lunalight Kaleido Chick. Now, this is like the bread and butter of your deck, right? The polymerization, the recovering polymerization, and of course, Black Sheep recovering other monsters from your graveyard as well, potentially setting up for more materials that you can use to fusion climb into your higher fusion monsters. Now, the last Lunalight monster that I play is going to be 3 copies of Lunalight Blue Cat. Well, last, that's in triples, right? In a playset of. That's not a pendulum. So we're playing 3 copies of Blue Cat here. She's not really too great of a card, but because you're playing pure, you don't really have too many other options. I'd really much prefer to play things like Armageddon Knights, Summoner Monks, things like that to help you tutor out more monsters like Kaleido Chick from your deck and get their effects off. But I guess Blue Cat in a pure variant suffices for what she does. She can potentially stall out if you have a bad opening hand, and just to loop additional copies out from your deck. She's also really great for facilitating OTKs because of her ability to double your fusion monsters' attack points. Alright, so moving on into the other Lunalight monsters that we play, these are more of tech cards and our pendulums. We have 1 copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox. I'm still a huge believer of 1 copy of Crimson Fox is way more than enough. You almost never really need a second copy. Her effect to decrease the attack of opponent's monster to 0 almost never comes up, and the targeting protection is nice, but it doesn't always come through, right? Maybe to help you against something like an Effect Veiler when you're going for game with a Panther Dancer, that's kind of nice, but other than that, I don't really see it being too useful. Next off, we're playing 1 copy of Lunalight Purple Butterfly. Purple Butterfly is in the pure variant because, well, you're going to have a lot of Lunalight monsters in your hand that you can't do anything with because you only have 1 normal summon. And Pendulum summons are really unreliable in this deck, especially since Lunalight Wolf is only really searchable with Perfume and not with Tenki due to her level. So Purple Butterfly allows you to just spam extra monsters out from your hand. The card that you're namely going to be summoning off of that is probably going to be a Blue Cat if you have an extra copy of this in your hand, which is why playing 3 is also not the worst thing, because if you have extra copies, Kaleido Chick can send Purple Butterfly, and you can special out the Blue Cat, and it can double the attack of something, right? And you can go off from there. But anyway, moving on, we're playing 3 copies of Lunalight Tiger, the best card in this deck, because the fact that you can just revive things for free, and you can use her effect more than once. So if you have multiples of her, don't be afraid to scale 2 copies of her into your pendulum scales. Also, mainly because we only play 1 copy of Lunalight Wolf, so even compared to like a Dark Lunalight build, Lunalight Wolf almost never comes up. You only use her if you're just trying to desperately swing for a game and you need that extra damage. Most of the time, you'll be able to fusion climb into your Panther Dancer really easily, and Leo Dancer is overkill in most situations, so having, you know, access to a Lunalight Wolf is fine and all, but she's not really necessary at more than 1 copy. You can always recover her from the graveyard with something like your Lunalight Black Sheep, and you can always search her with your Lunalight Perfume as well, so fairly easy access to her if you ever needed her. Okay, so that does it for the Lunalight monsters. Next off, we're going to go into some of the hand traps that we play. So I'm playing 2 types of hand traps in this build. I'm playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Now, these 2 hand traps, you can replace them with what you feel like is best suitable for your local regional meta, Droll Lockbirds, Effect Failures, things like that. I just prefer the Ghost Ogre, and I prefer the Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is very generic, hits all your opponent's cards, or most of the relevant decks at least, and then Ghost Ogre is here to kind of destroy things like Firewall Dragons and other decks that just kind of like to spam a huge board. This just helps take off some of their potential combos that they can use, especially with Firewall Dragon and its loops. So you can destroy the Firewall and then you're hopefully good to go from there. Effect Veiler also works just as well, but I prefer removing the monster from the field, so there's that. Okay, so anyway, that does it for the monsters. Next off, we're going to go into the spell cards. So for the spell cards, we're playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, of course, to help you search out your Lunalight monsters. Now, here's actually a pretty big change. I'm playing 1 copy of Fire Formation Tensu, and the reason why I'm playing this is actually because I've noticed that pure Lunalights struggle with getting monsters from their hand out onto the field. So having Tensu granting you an additional normal summon is actually fantastic. It's huge for a deck like this. Being able to normal summon something like your White Rabbit and then going to revive more things from your graveyard, it just opens a whole new world of possibilities, and especially with White Rabbit because the fact that you can put additional bodies on the field to go for your link summons as well. It's just a fantastic card that I've tested, and it's worked out pretty well, especially because you can easily have access to it with Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King, so that's also an option there. Now we're also playing 2 copies of Polymerization and 1 copy of Fusion Substitute for fusion spells. I prefer the 2-to-1 ratio because Fusion Substitute can always put back one of your fusions from the graveyard into the extra deck to get you an additional draw. That 1 extra draw can actually mean the difference between winning or losing that duel, especially because this deck is very OTK oriented. So that Fusion Substitute can help you out in the long run. Alright, so that does it for these spells. Next off, we have some of the Revival and Tech cards in this deck. So starting off, we're playing 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume, of course, because Revival is amazing in this deck, and Perfume can revive Cat Dancer or Panther Dancer as well. Lunalight Perfume also doubles as a searcher when it's in the graveyard, so you can banish it, pitch a card from your hand. That's useless. Probably going to be another Lunalight monster that you can't summon, and you can search out things like your tiger, your wolf, and those allow you to facilitate even more plays by providing more field presence. Next off, this is going to be a very controversial decision, but I'm playing 3 copies of Pod of Desires. Now, Pod of Desires is just like my pure Melodious build. This deck just needs to see more cards, right? And all the important cards that you're running in multiples of, 2s or 3s. And banishing all copies of, let's say, a Kaleido Chick is very, very unlikely, especially because, you can always play this after you go through your plays. Which helps you, just draw into additional cards to help you push for that last little bit of damage for game. And if you didn't have any starter cards to begin with, well, Pot of Desires doesn't hurt because you're probably going to get OTK'd in response anyway if you didn't have anything to help protect your life points. So Pot of Desires is just really, really versatile overall. I play 3 copies because I definitely want to see it. This deck is fast and furious, and it can mow down your opponent's field, but you have to have the cards in order to do it, and Pot of Desires is what gets us there. Okay, so next off, we're playing 2 copies of Call by the Grave because this deck is very fragile and you don't really want your plays to be hindered by like a Ghost Ogre or a Ash Blossom, especially Ash Blossom because we search a lot in this deck, Tenkis and Perfumes and things like that. You don't want those to get hindered at all. We're also playing 1 copy of Monster Reborn, kind of the same reasoning as Perfume, but you can also reborn things like your Link monsters and such as well, so that's actually kind of cool. And the last card is 1 copy of Foolish Burial. You can send your Kaleido Chicks, your Crimson Fox, your Purple Butterfly, whatever you need in the graveyard at the time. Foolish Burial is there for you. So yeah, that does it for the spell cards. That does it for the main deck. So next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Alright guys, so for the extra deck, starting off, we're playing 1 copy of Wee Witch's Apprentice. Now, Apprentice is very generic, dark Link monster, 2 dark monsters, and it also helps boost the attack of your Lunalight fusions as well, which is actually really nice. Boosting a Panther Dancer to 3,300 attack is no laughing matter. So Apprentice is here as a one-of. It's really nice to summon, and if she gets destroyed by battle by card effect, you can always put herself back into your extra deck so you have access to her later. Next off, we're running 1 copy of Firefighting Darumidal. Fantastic card to pop your opponent's back row, right? Helps synergize really well with Lunalight White Rabbit. So White Rabbit can bounce some opponent's back row. Then you can link summon into Darumidal with White Rabbit and whatever she brought back. And then Darumidal can pop, your Lunalight Tiger and your Pendulum Scale and some more of your opponent's back row and just go off from there. It's really good. And, White Rabbit... when Lunalight Tiger and the Pendulum Scale is popped, you can revive things from your graveyard like your Cat Dancer, Panther Dancer, and things like that, and then swing for a bunch of damage. Okay, next off we're running the Nightmare package right here. So 1 copy of Cerberus, 1 copy of Phoenix, and 1 copy of Unicorn. This is just too good to pass up. It's just very generic removal for monsters, spell and traps, and just anything in general, spinning it back into the deck. So they're just right here for toolboxing reasons. But, you know, if you don't want to play Unicorn, you can always replace it with something else. It's actually pretty difficult in this deck to get up to the higher linked monsters. So if you want to stick to link 2s and stuff, be my guest. And the last link monster that I play is 1 copy of Borreload Dragon. You could play Borreload, you can play Boral Sword. I prefer Borreload because the fact that it's more versatile. Stealing your opponent's monsters is great, and we already have so much OTK potential that Boral Sword is a little redundant, if you know what I mean. Getting all that damage on board, your opponent still only has 8,000 life points, which you can easily take out with something like a Panther or a Leo Dancer. So I prefer Borreload for its utility and stealing your opponent's stuff, especially because your opponent's gonna be very tempted to make a Borreload of their own to steal your Panther or steal your Leo Dancers. So having access to a Borreload to steal their Borreload and steal back your monsters is just fantastic. Alright guys, so that does it for the Link monsters. Next off we have our XYZs and our fusions. So for our XYZs, we're only playing 2 of them. One's defensive, which is our Evil Swarm Nightmare right here, and one's more offensive and supportish. So we have 1 copy of Brotherhood the Firefist Tiger King right here. So as a first turn play, having access to something like an Evil Swarm Nightmare is fantastic, especially with like Apprentice, Wee Witch's Apprentice, which can boost its defense up to 2450 defense, which is really difficult for your opponent to get over. With anything in their main deck. And then we also have Brotherhood of the Firefist Tiger King, which can help tutor out our Tenkis and our Tensus from our main deck, which is fantastic for setting up a lot of our searches and a lot of our subsequent plays, especially if you search Tensu with it. And it also has the effect where you can detach a material from it and it just negates everything on the field that's not a Beast Warrior type, so it's great in that regard as well. And because it's a Beast Warrior type on its own as well, you can easily use as material for your Daruma doll. So you have some link potential with this as well. And Evil Swarm Nightmare, if this is in your extra monster zone up here, you can always summon your Wee Witch's Apprentice because it's a dark attribute. So that's how you can get rid of it from your extra monster zone if you ever if that ever comes up. Okay, so next off, for our fusions, we're playing 1 copy of Predaplant Dragostapelia and 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. So Dragostapelia is more of the defensive fusion monster to go for, and Starving Venom is the offensive one. So you can, of course, just swing for a lot of damage with something like your Starving Venom, whereas Dragostapelia, if you're going first and you summon this, it's not bad to help negate some of your opponent's monster effects. So both of these cards have their own uses. You won't summon them every game, but they're just here as options to go for. And last but not least, we of course have our Lunalight fusions. So 2 copies of Cat Dancer, we have 2 copies of Panther Dancer, and 1 copy of Leo Dancer to help round things out. Very standard Lunalight lineup in the extra deck, and they do what they need to do, right? Which is destroy the opponent's life points. So yeah, anyway, that does it for the extra deck, and that does it for the deck profile. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.